We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Friday, February 28th here in Seoul. I'm Song Jin, and great to have you with us on News Generation. Joining us this Friday is Bin.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Brooke Prince.
Hello, great to see you again.
Happy Friday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Friday is when we wrap up the week with topics that matter to young people around the world. And these days, our wallets are getting thinner and thinner, and it's not just because of high inflation or rising living costs. It's because cash is disappearing. With more countries moving towards a cashless society where paper bills and coins are being phased out, making way for credit cards and digital payment options. So today, in light of this trend, we're diving into this growing phenomenon and exploring whether we're heading toward a completely cash-free world. So we're first going to start by getting a sense of our panelists' payment activities, habits. Please raise the O or X sign based on what you think and what you do in real life. So we're going to start with our first statement of the day. Number one, I pay with a card or digital payment way more often than cash. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, we have different answers, X and O. So we're going to start with Bin. Why X?
I'm a cash guy. I stick to cash. Yes. There are a lot of reasons, but to explain one, it's to prevent me from overspending or splurging.
Smart.
Yeah. I believe that every paying method has like this pain tolerance level. So for example, if you use a NFC payment method like Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, or Alipay, let's say you're spending $1,000, right? All you got to do is just tap your phone, and within 10 minutes, you're going to forget the fact that you spent $1,000. On the other hand, if you use cash, like cold, hard, tangible cash, it doesn't even have to be $1,000. If you're paying $100, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts inside. Yeah.
And it just gets to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like a part of me is falling off.
Right.
So with that pain, low pain tolerance, so you feel the pain easily, it definitely does stop me from like just spending money on unnecessary things. It's like, oh, $7 here, $5 here. Really stops me from that. Therefore, I like cash.
So higher chance of avoiding splurging.
Yes.
So Brooke, why O?
You know, Bin made some great points. I may have to change some of my habits here, but I almost exclusively use my credit card or digital payments. If I go to the PC Bang here in Korea, for example, it's very easy to use your mobile payment on the computer, which I like. I'm also that person where if I'm trying to use cash in the line, for example, if I go to a convenience store, I will fumble everything. I will drop change on the floor, and I hate holding people up, especially in Korea. It's that 빨리빨리 culture, and you just want to quickly get through the transaction. So for me, it's so much easier to just give my card and then be able to leave. But again, Bin really made some great points about how it's so easy when it's numbers on a screen to kind of forget what you're doing. So I guess there's a balance that could be struck there.
Right, because if you're using digital payments, you just have to swipe or just tap.
Right, it's so easy, too easy.
Right, it's too easy. Okay, number two, moving on to our second statement. I always carry some cash or coins with me just in case. What do you think? 1, 2, 3. O and X. Let's start with you again, Bin.
Always.
Always?
Yes. It's very handy to carry some cash. It always comes in handy. In Korea, another big reason why a lot of Korean people like to carry cash is the traditional food trucks, such as 붕어빵, which is like a Korean traditional fish bread, and tteokbokki, which is spicy and sweet rice cake. A lot of these food trucks are considered to be old-fashioned because they were there since 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
And because they're a little bit old-fashioned, they tend to only accept cash. So there's that, because we have to, without the cash, we won't be able to eat the delicious food despite smelling it. And the second reason is that a lot of people who use public transportations use a public transportation card, and that card must be charged monthly, and that can be done with only cash. So, you know, it's a month, you gotta renew it monthly, and sometimes you will forget what day you have to exactly renew it. And when it's the day where you have to renew it, and if you don't have cash, oh, you got to find another way to go
Yeah,
to
you're
work
in big
that day.
trouble,
So
right?
carrying some bills, extra bills, always comes in handy. So I do.
Right, and also if you use valet parking here in Korea, you mostly pay the drivers through cash, which is another example where cash does come in handy. But on the flip side, Brooke, you chose X, right?
Right. I don't often carry cash with me, and I'm glad Wonbin mentioned street food because the only time I regret not carrying cash is when I'm walking by
Especially
a street
during this
food.
time of year.
Yes, and it smells delicious, and then I look and I see, oh, only cash accepted, and then I can't get it. There is this one hodok place, which is like a Korean pancake. It's sweet and delicious. It's right by my apartment, and it only accepts cash or bank transfers.
Oh.
But bank transfers in Korea, if you don't know, can be somewhat cumbersome. They
Yeah.
have a few more security steps. So again, I hate holding people up and taking a long time. So if it were between bank transfers and cash, I think I would choose cash. But overall, I'm still a credit card girl, and I just very rarely have cash in my purse. Again, though, I think this show is enlightening and revealing some of my maybe bad
Are you being
spending
persuaded
habits.
now?
So maybe I will start carrying cash more often.
Okay, we're gonna now move on to our final statement. Even for occasions where it's customary to pay in cash, like the wedding gift money culture here in Korea, I prefer bank transfers if possible. What do you think? 1, 2, 3. Okay, X and O.
Opposite again.
Opposite again.
We're clashing today.
Okay, we're gonna start with you, Wonbin.
In special occasions such as a wedding, I think having the physical presence, like the tangibility, does carry some value. And on top of that, for the viewers who are not quite familiar, in Korea, most of these special occasions, there's a tradition, and handing in the physical money is kind of related to it. To briefly explain it, when you first enter the venue, you basically say hi to everyone, and then as you pass the envelope with the physical bill, they kind of give you the coupon that you need to enter the restaurant, or they let you enter into the venue so you can have a seat. So if the physical money is kind of taken out of the equation, it would kind of get awkward or kind of out of situation because let's say you enter a venue and you say hi, and they'll be like, oh yeah, they have this A4 paper with bank account, so you got to send the money to here, and then they're like,
it sounds so
did you send
awkward.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this way. So I think it's better to have cash, and I'm a bit more of a traditional guy when it comes to this case, so I stick to cash.
And I think so far it's considered more sincere to actually pay those wedding gift money in person when you
Yes.
visit a wedding hall.
Yeah, also, sorry, there's
okay.
also a culture where you kind of the new bills are preferred instead of old ones.
Right.
So that kind of adds on to how people put in value to giving the physical money, like Eugene said.
Well, thank you for explaining that
No
for our
worries,
viewers.
I got you.
Then let's go to you, Brooke.
Yes,
now.
he's very persuasive today. I do agree that there is something sentimental about the physical bill, and those traditions are very special. But for me, let me tell you, the last time I received cash as a gift, my father gave me a gift for Hanukkah when I was in the United States, and I proceeded to leave it at my sister's house and
Oh,
fly back
no.
to Korea without it. So
Oh, no.
for people like me who can easily lose track of things, I think it's better and easier, more efficient to just have it in my bank account. You can, of course, also lose your credit card, which I have done as well. But if you cancel it quickly and it doesn't get stolen, then that money is still safe in your account. Whereas cash, it is easier to lose. And if you lose that money,
gone.
it's gone.
You can definitely keep track and know where your money is if you put it in your bank account.
That's right.
Okay, then we're now going to broaden our discussion. We're going to look at some numbers now because data indeed shows that cash is quickly becoming a thing of the past. So Wonbin, please walk us through the details.
Absolutely. So every 3 years, the Bank of Korea runs a survey to measure the use of cash. And according to their numbers, the use of cash decreased over 25% from the year 2018 to 2021, which is a pretty big number. Now, to take a deeper look into this data, let's look at the stats. In 2015, the proportion of cash expenses was 39%, and that went down to 32% in 2018 and 21% in 2021. And as you can see, the data is showing a downward trend, which seems natural and understandable considering the digitalization of the world. And in the past, just like anywhere else in the world, it was a common practice to carry around small bills or changes with you at all times. And in Korea, like I mentioned, one of the reasons is Korean street food trucks, which only accepts cash. However, even these food trucks are also digitalizing and now accepting bank accounts transfers too. To give some further examples, Starbucks introduced a cashless branch in 2018, and the public transportation buses are also transitioning to a non-cash system. And as you can see in the data in the example, cash is becoming a thing in the past rapidly.
Right, so we're seeing that the future is indeed more digital, definitely when compared to the past. And another reason why we brought this topic to our show today is because our generation, the younger generation, is leading this shift. So, Brooke, could you tell us what's driving our generation away from cash?
Sure, and even though I have been a proponent of digital payments today, I will say it does kind of make me sad to see this shift happening, because I remember being so excited as a kid, for example, when the tooth fairy would come after you lose a tooth and you would wake up to cash under your pillow. That felt so fun. It's a real tangible reward that you can have. But those things, unfortunately, might be becoming a thing of the past, and that is being driven largely by younger generations that really prefer using these digital payments over cash. The few situations where cash is still used include special occasions like the wedding that we were talking about earlier, and also allowances. But even then, the pocket money that younger people are receiving in Korea these days tends to come more often in the form of digital payments. Additionally, young kids have their own debit cards that they use. 92% of teenagers in Korea with their youth debit cards use them actively, and only 7% still rely on cash. I myself did not even have my own card until I was well into adulthood.
Me too.
So
They're
it's a
starting
little
early.
Yeah, mind-boggling to think about, but things have really changed over the generations. Traditions are changing. Even things like Sollar, the Lunar New Year. Sebeton is a type of money that you would receive or give during the Lunar New Year. A lot of people are taking bank transfers for that now. So we're really seeing a shift in society thanks to the younger generation towards this more digital age. Good thing, bad thing, we'll definitely be discussing that today.
Right, absolutely. So we are indeed seeing the world becoming more digitalized. Then one minute, I want to ask you, are we witnessing more countries or cultures around the world going cashless?
This shift is indeed a global shift. To give some additional examples, China is aggressively shifting to QR code payments such as Alipay and WeChat Pay. Especially in the big cities like Shanghai and Beijing, it's actually very common for people to live a day without taking out their wallet thanks to the QR code payment method. And according to WorldPay's global payment report, the proportion of cash payment was 16% in 2023, which is 19% lower from 3 years ago. And this number is also projected to decrease another 11% in 2027.
I see. Then Wonbin did give us some examples, for example, China. But Brooke, I want to ask you, which countries have transitioned to digital payments and which are still sticking with cash?
Right, this transition, it is not unique to just Korea. It is happening all over the world. Like Wonbin mentioned, in China, using these digital payment methods has become so common that a lot of people can just replace their cards entirely and never take out their wallet. In my home country of the United States, roughly 4 in 10 Americans say that none of their purchases in a typical week are made using cash, which is a big number.
Right.
Sweden is another leading example where just 1% of the country's
1%.
GDP is made up of cash, which really indicates that Sweden is becoming very, very close to a completely cashless society. They say that it's very common to see signs that say no cash accepted. So that's what's happening there. But there are some countries that are still clinging to cash. Cash is still king there. For example, Nigeria had the highest rate of cash transactions in 2023 at 55%, followed by Thailand, Japan, and Mexico. But even then, with the exception of Nigeria, all of them were under 50%. Looking at the other side of the spectrum, the United States was at 12%, the UK at 10%, China at 7%, Australia at 7%, and Norway at just 4%.
Wow.
So there is a definite trend towards going cashless, but despite this, there are concerns about financial exclusion and vulnerabilities in the system, which we'll get into more later. But because of that, some governments are enacting laws to sort of protect cash. For example, Philadelphia enacted a law that says businesses are prohibited prohibited from putting those signs up that say only or no cash accepted, only cards. Businesses can't do that there. So I think there are some conflicting views on either side of the coin here.
Definitely. So as Brooke pointed out, with the rise of digital payment options, some places around the world are pushing back to protect cash users. For example, the U.S. city of Philadelphia recently passing a law requiring businesses to accept cash, banning retailers from going completely cashless. So we're now going to take a look at what our viewers think. And we conducted a survey through our Arirang news channel with the question, should businesses be required to accept cash? 87% answered yes, while 13% answered no. We received 295 votes, and the survey was conducted from February 20th to 26th. We're now going to take a look at some comments. Gurmarita says, as a traveler, I sometimes face my cards failing to work and had no cash on me. I will always prefer cash. Also, physically putting down bills really makes you understand how much things cost. Pakdeon85 says, sometimes card fail and it is difficult to pay if you do not bring cash with you. Shinbun says, technology is evolving at a rapid pace, so it may be more efficient to phase out cash and educate everyone, especially older adults, in how to use cards. So we're going to take a look at the pros and cons later in our show. Right now, after the break, we'll connect with a young person from Australia who's experiencing this shift firsthand. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Alexandria Fayem, an Australian millennial. Welcome back to the show, Alexandria.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to see you all again.
It's lovely to see you again as well. So Alexandria, we first like to ask you, what's the payment trend in Australia? And the question is, do people use cash or digital payments more?
Well, we're definitely seeing a big swing towards digital payments. As you mentioned before, there are a lot of cafes and restaurants and some retailers as well that only accept digital payments. They don't accept cash, so there's a very big, obvious swing towards reducing cash payments. But the thing is, there is a lot of pushback from Australian communities, the older community especially. So even though we're pushing it very hard, it's not something that everybody wants to see.
I see. Now, do you prefer going fully digital, or do you still like using cash, and why?
Personally, I have become very used to using digital. It's a second nature thing. My phone has my wallet on it, so I can just tap and go. But I do love paying with cash. I try to keep some cash on me whenever I can, just in case. But it's so much easier to have digital payments and everything like that. But yeah, I do try and keep a little bit of cash on me just to have it with me around. You never know. There are a lot of incidents that tech could go down, your card could get stolen and you don't have access to things. When you're traveling, your card might become damaged or something could go wrong. So it's always best to have a safety net just in case.
Hi, Alexandria. Some great points there. Thanks for joining us again. My last question for you is, do you think cash will completely disappear in the future? Why or why not?
I hope not. It's a bit of a tough one because technology is moving so fast. The problem is, with such rapid increase in technology and developments, we need to keep up. Our government, especially in Australia, needs to keep up with the advancements. And until we start doing that, then there is no reason to get rid of cash altogether because, as I said, there is an older community who rely on cash very heavily. Sorry, my dog just jumped off my lap. They rely on cash very heavily, so it's a really, really major part of our community and keeps us going. So until we figure out how to make sure that every payment is safe, secure, there's no chance of anything going wrong, which is unlikely, it's important to keep cash just as a safety net.
All right, Alexandria, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, so as mentioned earlier, we're now going to break down the pros and cons. So Wonbin, could you please tell us the advantages of a cashless society?
Absolutely, I can. So there are three main advantages: convenience, transparency, and efficiency. So first of all, it's traceable. Cash cannot be monitored who used it or who it went through, which makes it very hard to very hard to track. And that's why a lot of under-the-table deals are done via cash. And cards and digital payment methods, on the other hand, leave a clear history of how the money was transferred from who to who. And furthermore, it reduces unnecessary expenses, so efficiency. Cash needs a lot of work. It needs to be printed, transported, and distributed. They say that it costs more than a dime to actually make a dime. So it kind of speaks for itself. And when it comes to convenience, which is the most important one, you don't have to carry them. It's just very convenient. Like, you don't lose them, like Brooke mentioned. So those are some pros and advantages of the cashless society.
Okay, then we're now going to look at the cons. Brooke?
Yes, so while it's undeniable that the cashless society is very convenient, there are some risks that we need to consider. One major concern is the vulnerability of financial networks. I'm sure we've all had those moments of, oh gosh, did it go through? Did it go to the right person? But those little minor fears and inconveniences are nothing compared to what could happen in a time of crisis. So think a natural disaster, a cyber attack, war. These disrupt those financial networks in a huge way, and that can result in a lot of loss, people not being able to access their funds when they need it the most. Additionally, there are certain vulnerable groups like the elderly, like our guest mentioned, like individuals with disabilities, or people that are just unfamiliar with digital banking. They can be left behind because they are not prepared for this shift to a completely cashless era. Cybercrime is another issue, right? We see it in the headlines all the time, these hacking incidents that can happen. And that leads to financial losses on a much larger scale because most people don't carry around a huge bag of cash, right? So if someone steals from you in person, they won't get as much as they would if they had your entire bank account information, right? So we have to be careful about that. So to address these risks, many experts think we need to preserve cash. We need to still keep it as a backup option, and we need to strike a balance between digitalization and inclusivity to make sure everyone is included in this evolving financial system.
Right, so both very strong advantages and disadvantages of going cashless. Now, ending off our episode today, whether it will be a complete transition or not, it's undeniable that change is in the air. And as technology transforms how we spend money, it's not always easy for everyone to keep up, as Brooke mentioned. For some, going digital can feel overwhelming and burdensome. So how do you think we can make sure this transition is smooth and inclusive for all?
It has to be simple. Everything has to be very simple, everything digital. Spending or sending money should not become complicated, like buying or selling stocks and bitcoins. Every process must be a cakewalk, no unnecessary options or excessive information. The art is in taking things away, not adding things in. For example, some seniors struggle with a lot of kiosks payments. It's a very common thing. And it's very understandable when you see what the payment process of a kiosk looks like. It's hideous. It's not simple.
Very complex.
Yeah. You have to choose everything, and then now you have to enter your membership number, and then if you don't want to, there's this small gray fonted text that says I don't have a membership at font size 8, and then if you press that, you got to enter like your second membership number, and it goes on. So keeping things simple, and as long as everything stays simple, no one will suffer from the cashless society environment.
Because simple is the best.
Yes.
Right.
Anything you'd briefly like to add, Brooke?
Sure. Yeah, like one of our commenters said, technology has evolved at a rapid pace. If you look at our whole human history, our technology it's a little blip of us getting to this point. So we need to hit the brakes. We need to slow down a little bit, make sure that no one gets left out in the cold. I think financial institutions need to make things simpler, like Wonbin said, offer assistance programs and education for consumers so that they don't fall for any scams and they're able to have that digital safety. We also need to make sure there are robust security measures so that our money stays safe and that we as a society can make a smooth and gradual transition to cashless.
So definitely a lot to work on. And that wraps up this Friday's edition of News Generation, but we will be back next Tuesday. We're taking a day off as Monday has been designated as a temporary holiday here in Korea. Special thanks to Lee Won-bin.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Brooke Prince.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And to our viewers, thank you for ending off your week with us, and hope to see you next Tuesday here at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. We are
News Generation.